Akhtar,
I
you got
want
the
to,
top story. Go ahead.
I always want to say people are responsible for their own actions, and we can't blame other people if somebody commits a crime or does a wrong action. But there are certain politicians who almost encouraged people to incite violence. Let's listen to this. Cut one, please. And do you know, people listened. I don't know if you remember this, when I remember vividly Ted Cruz going to a restaurant. I believe he was with his wife, maybe even his children, and harassed, not just saying, "Oh, Mr. Cruz, I'd love to talk to you at some time. I don't believe in that policy or this policy," or, "Hey, I want to give you a different perspective." It was really violent and nasty. So much so, the press secretary at the time, Sarah Huckabee, had to have security. I think it was the first time in our nation. And listen to this. Cut three, please. Yeah, Judge Kavanaugh almost paid the price. A young man traveled across the entire country with a plan to kill Justice Kavanaugh. And then we have death threats to the Illinois GOP gubernatorial candidate. Two people viciously assaulted a Marco Rubio canvasser. I mean, he was beaten up. He had to go to the hospital. And then a 41-year-old man, this is so sad, so sad. North Dakota man got in an argument with a young Republican, an 18-year-old man. It couldn't be just about differences in policy. That 41-year-old ran over and killed that 18-year-old Republican.
Well, you know, the amazing thing about it is, of course, it's another application of the Democrat process of projection, which only works because of the sycophantic media, meaning they accuse Republicans of what they do to cover their criminality and wrongdoing. Just think of Hillary and the Russian collusion paid for, cost her $1.5 million. Meanwhile, she was colluding all along with Ukraine as well as with Russia. Uh, you can go on and on. So basically, they're the ones who incite riots. They're the ones who incited and encouraged and enabled uh, how many? 30 people dead in 2020, 500
Right,
riots,
right.
billions of dollars in property damage,
It's
thousands of people injured.
Yeah, and it's not talked about those 30 people who were killed.
And that thing you got from Waters was it helping to incite that. And of course, what they do is they have this whole big investigation putting people in jail for January 6th, which is bad, 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 bad. January 6th is
Yep.
bad, bad, bad. In comparison to 2020 riots, it was nothing. I mean, they didn't have guns. The only person killed, tragically, was one of the people who was protesting, Ashley Babbitt. She was murdered in
Unarmed.
cold blood, and they will do nothing about it.
And that was inside the Capitol. We do know that there were several people outside the
Also
Capitol
killed.
peacefully protesting, I might say, who died, and we're not sure about those circumstances. Two or three, actually. There was two men and a female who allegedly was beaten to death by the Capitol police.
And now these hypocrites get away with the following. There's nothing that Trump ever said that even approximates what Schumer did. Nothing.
Yes, I
In
was
fact,
shocked.
he said the opposite. He said, go peacefully and patriotically instead of, you'll reap the whirlwind. Not, I'm talking
No, he
more.
said they'll
I'm talking
pay.
more like a normal person
Yeah,
than
yeah,
him.
yeah.
Now reap the whirlwind. That's the way he talks. Oh
I
my God.
remember
It's
the
like scratching on the
time.
blackboard.
Yeah, I remember the time Chuck Schumer was on those steps. I was shocked that a leader in the Senate, and he has a long career, that he wouldn't have been more like a statesman.
Oh, statesman, my God. He
But anyways,
gave away New York to be majority leader a long time. He gave away his soul to be majority leader. Gave
yeah.
away Israel to be majority leader.
Oh, terrible. Yeah, I really believe when there are bad apples, you got to call them out, whether they're in your party or not. We got to put the country over party and civility. over rhetoric. I know it goes back to Thomas Jefferson days when Jefferson and Adams were both running for the president at the same time. There was a lot of fake news they would put in the newspapers. So, we've had that for a long time. You really have to kind of weed your way through the fake news, but to incite violence, you can't do. So anyways, long and short, Mayor Giuliani, Dr. Maria, Uncovering the Truth, are asking for the rhetoric to please calm down. It is all of our country, irregardless of what party.
I have the second thing to add to it. To the Democrats at the high levels of the party, not to all those wonderful people who are Democrats. Stop lying. There's not a day that goes by that there aren't 4 or 5 major lies. Second, stop putting people up for office whose brains are deteriorating. America was never intended to have people with dementia or people who can't talk because they are recovering from a stroke and should be hospitalized or in rehab so they don't die from stress. America was not supposed to have people like that.
No, it's a very stressful. You have a good point, Mayor. It's a very stressful job, very important role. Like, they're responsible for our national security. Of course, they're responsible for our terrible inflation. And you need people with quick wit, learned, willing to listen to other people. But
he can't.
Right.
But he can't hear. He needs somebody.
It's a comprehension.
Somebody has to
problem.
put it into another language for him so he can understand it. Then it comes out the other end. And we saw how well that worked when he debated. It doesn't work at all. He said he began the debate by saying, "Good evening, good night."
Yeah.
And I didn't know where he was. And how often does Biden not know where he is? So let me go through some of the races. You want to do that?
Excellent. Can I ask you a question real quick?
Oh, I don't know
when
about
it comes to our races, I'm not a big proponent of early voting. I can see in a huge city like New York, 8 million people, maybe they have to do a few days before. But I don't like these weeks, and I think there's some state that's almost a month before, because debates should be like a job role performance. And the Democrats actually were very resistant to debates. I know my Maggie Hassan in New Hampshire refused to debate General Bolduc, except for 2. They did have a couple debates now.
In fact, the better thing she should have debated him because he kicked her, what.
Yeah, but my point is people aren't really getting to know the candidates almost to the end. So like Fetterman, he refused to debate. So all these people voted, and then they got to see that this man, unfortunately, cannot comprehend issues. But they already voted.
Yeah, I know. It's very unfair. It's extremely unfair because you could have some major thing emerge, and you already have half the vote in. I mean, how many people, think about the hard drive is probably the best example of that. You go take a poll now of Democrats and about 20% say they would have voted for Trump. And about 30% said they wouldn't have voted for him. In other words, some would not have voted at all because he was shown to be such a big crook. And number 2, a lot of them have just gone over to Trump.
Let me put your lawyer hat on for this question. I really believe several factors influenced or what's the word I'm looking for? Interrupted interference in our election at the last one. One of which is censoring information of what was on the
outrageous,
massive. Is that a crime? Not really, right? It's just wrong.
There's a.
It seems like interference in an American election should be a crime.
It gets closer to a crime now that we know the facts. At the time we didn't know the length and breadth of the thing. We didn't know the government was involved in it.
Right.
So
we didn't.
The idea was these 3 or 4 social media oligarchs, and that's what they are. They're like Russian and Ukrainian oligarchs because they think they can control, your speech and can intimidate you. We didn't know that they were getting constant calls from the White House, constant calls from the Biden campaign. Now, since Biden's been in office, they're actually told what to cut off. So now it becomes government action. Don't want to get too legal on you, but the First Amendment of the United States Constitution guarantees you free speech as against the government, not as against private people. Private people can say, like, you can't go into someone's home and start talking. They don't like it. They can throw you out. It's their home. If you go to a government building and speak, they can't throw you out because the government can't throw you. The government has to allow you to speak. However, there's something in the middle that's known as being an agent of the government. So if you are colluding with the government to cut off speech, which would be illegal for the government to do, it's illegal for you to do.
Ooh, I like that. We'll have to talk more about that. But let's talk about the New York races.
Well, the New York races are I think, very, very exciting. The Republican committee actually thinks New York may be one of the places that helps them pick up
Like Senate seats?
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
No, House seats.
Oh, House
House
seats.
seats.
Okay.
Yeah, there are a lot of them. They think they're going to win all of Long Island. So we've only had one congressman. We've had two congressmen from the New York metropolitan area. In Staten Island, Maliotakis, and in Long Island, of course, Lee Zeldin. We added Gabarino. Now we think we're going to add two more in Long Island. And that's George Santos. That would be in the 3rd district against Bob Zimmerman. And that looks absolutely razor close. And they've raised about the same amount of money. It's very interesting, 2.6 against 2.7. The latest poll says Zimmerman by 1. When you factor in the Republicans run behind almost uniformly by 3%, could be that Santos is ahead in that race. The other race that I would be even more confident of is Desposito versus Gillen. That's New York 4th. That's Hempstead, Freeport, and Long Beach. Desposito is exactly what you want to elect right now. A New York City detective, a smart, bright New York City detective against a 100% crime-loving, silly lib who is the reason why people are dying in New York right now and where the state everybody leaves. She has all of those policies, plus a few other ridiculous policies that will destroy us. Desposito, I think, wins that. So those are two pickups, right? Right in what used to be Dem territory. The big one, of course, is Sean Patrick Maloney, who's in charge of electing Democrats all over the country. Now he's going to lose that job big time when we win that.
Is he like
in other words, he's the head of the
chairperson,
committee.
or- Oh,
he's the head of the committee that picked all these candidates and getting their heads kicked in. Well, it looks like he's had his head kicked in by Mike Lawler, who had on my radio show the other day. Number one, he starts off with 20 IQ points on Maloney. He actually addresses issues, and two, Maloney is a young version of Pelosi.
No more.
I mean, this guy is left. He pushed debunking. That's what they always do. Defunding the police. Specifically argued for defunding the police. Now he won't even answer it now. Fetterman, at least when they ask him, you were very much against fracking. Now you're very much for fracking. And they ask him to explain it. He can hide in the I don't understand things. So he just stands there and just keeps repeating, I support fracking. I support fracking. This guy can't get away with this. This guy was for defunding the police. And here's another thing the press doesn't tell you. New York City Police Department was defunded by $1 billion. It has never been put back.
Right, that doesn't ever seem to make the headlines.
That's about a quarter of their budget.
Holy macaroni.
I mean, it's a big one. Also, there are Adams and Hochul, who are disgraceful. Don't tell you they have too few cops. I did an outline yesterday of what they can do. Too bad I had to do it on the street. I should have done it inside, because
we will definitely
if
talk
you
about
follow this, you can reduce crime.
Yep. We will definitely talk about your press conference. More coming up. Please stay with us on Uncovering the Truth. We'll be back in a moment.
Got a lot of stuff.
They had problems with my mic again, but they said it's better now. Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you for your communication. Okay, great.
You could.
Yeah, I don't want to
put
touch
that
anything now. He said it was
You
good.
could put that up louder. You have that one a little too low.
Which one?
This one here. You put up just a little bit.
Okay. I get nervous now. He said it's all working good now.
Well, you're only going louder.
He said when that I was started out okay, but then when it changed.
Yeah.
So let me, I'm gonna prep you for about your press conference too. Unless, do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So we are on Facebook and YouTube live streaming. We're trying something new. So please make sure you subscribe to Mayor Giuliani's YouTube channel, and also subscribe or follow or like his Facebook. This man has so much expertise in so many things. It just amazes me. I learn more and more about him every day. And he really, really, like me too, wants to make our country better. It is so bad right now. I'm really worried about heating my home in New Hampshire. I'm worried about the lack of diesel. We're all worried. We all see the two-tiered judicial system and we wonder where we lived. So this man is helping to fight for us, so please support him.
Yeah, we are trying very, very hard to save this country, and I know you are too. And I'm not even saying this on the air, I'm saying, but I will. I mean, this is a do or die election. I mean die, particularly for places like New York.
Okay. So we're going to be silent for a second because we're coming back with our show. I hear our radio station through the ears. Our board op tells me things. Welcome back to Uncovering the Truth. It's Dr. Maria here with Mayor Rudy Giuliani, and we are sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Well, we were just talking about the New York races, and it's got national attention too, especially at the governor level.
Whoa.
Because Lee Zeldin is really
right
neck and neck with Governor Hochul. And the thing that really bothers me, again, if you know me at all, I don't like to pit Republicans against Democrats. I like to look at an individual person, their policies, how it hurt, how it helped, and be reasonable. And I have to say, I want the New York woman to rise up. Nobody, all of a sudden, the woman is in the second class seat now in the Democrat Party. We had Title IX to help women in sports and other things, but now the Democrats don't mind if a man is on winning titles.
Why aren't all women, whether they're activists or not,
Upset by that?
why wouldn't you be upset by that? Aren't women athletes upset by that?
They are. They're very upset, and very few people seem to listen. But New York crime is totally out of control, as it is in Philadelphia, as it is in Los Angeles. It is a bad problem. And here there's these things that you would think are women issues. Kira Benefield, it is very hard.
She's from Buffalo.
Yeah, Buffalo. If you use your search engine, I don't use Google, I use DuckDuckGo. But whatever your search engine is, look up Kira Benefield. It is tough to watch. There is a video of her being savagely, and I mean savagely, beaten by her husband. The police pick him up. He goes to, whatever they do down at the station. No cash bail, right? What does he do? The first thing he does, he comes back and shoots her in the head in front of his 3 children. What does Governor Hochul say? Something about following the system. You got to trust in the system. Maybe it failed. Nothing like, oh my God, I can see why no cash bail is harmful. Nothing like that.
No.
A jogger, broad daylight. What was the park? That was
Hudson
Parks.
Hudson River Park.
Raped. She remains in the intensive care unit today with bone fractures. She was choked. That guy was a repeat offender. Nothing. Did anybody visit her in the hospital? If that was my city, my state, what would you do if you were the mayor?
I mean, to me, I have to confess, Doctor, some of the times it makes me want to cry.
Yeah.
Because I worked and tirelessly to change it. When I left office and I knew I was being succeeded by Bloomberg, I thought I had changed it permanently. When Bloomberg continued it for another 20 years, I thought it's so bred into New York City now. Even these
Right, the policies.
even these crazy
Yeah.
Democrats can't change it. I didn't realize how pro-criminal they've become. I don't know if you can possibly understand how pro-criminal these people have become. And the reality is, the only way you're going to change that, is by voting for Zeldin. And he is closing. I mean, she is closing on fumes, they say. So, in my view and estimation, she has to be defeated. There's only one answer to it, and if we don't, I think the state is gone. The rates of leaving are the highest in the country. They can go up. You're losing the taxpayers. You're keeping the people that need to be supported. There comes a point at which there's nobody to pay the bills, and we're getting there. And they are living in their communist dreamland, and seem to not even care.
So here's the irony about these women getting hurt. Lee Zeldin went to a couple of the places.
Yeah, I used to all the time.
You did. You
Yeah,
would
Mayor
visit
Adams
people.
He was at a nightclub.
And what was Hochul doing? She was with Clinton and Harris at a women's forum,
Yeah.
listening to Hillary Clinton say this is GOP conspiracy that these crimes are happening. They are so elite. They don't hear.
They don't care about people.
They don't
I mean, this
care.
idea that the Democrat Party cares about people, the press would never tell you this. If I were at that thing with let's say with President Bush when he was president or whatever, I would leave and go to the hospital.
Yeah.
I would go to the hospital, not just for my police officers and firefighters and city workers. I'd go to the hospital when some out-of-towner in particular was horribly beaten because I know they were lost. I would help get their parents here. I would make sure the police department gave it priority, and I would drive my police commissioner crazy until he got the person. I mean, call him 4 times a day, go over to the police department, look at the ComStat reports, look at I learned from Mayor Lindsay, believe it or not, when the mayor puts on pressure, everybody works.
Sure.
So if I wanted a result, I knew I wouldn't go to a nightclub that night and put on my $5,000 suit with my $2,000 watch, which I didn't have, like the mayor has. But I'd be working all night because I wasn't going to stop working until we got this son of a who did it.
Well, you did a press conference yesterday in Times Square, and the people were screaming, "Rudy, we need you back. We want you as mayor." And you're trying to help. I am disappointed Mayor Adams has not called you. You definitely have a blueprint for success. It shouldn't be a ego thing. It should be let's make it better. Let's have safe city streets. And you at that press conference named several things to do.
Several. I laid out 12 things that come from 40 years of being involved in fighting crime, but not just as a crime fighter, but as an academic. I mean, I've read all this stuff. When people argue over who started the broken windows theory, was it me or Bratton? Actually, I learned it 10 years before I met Bratton from James Q. Wilson.
And who is James Q. Wilson?
A Harvard professor who I named as the co-chairman of the Attorney General's Task Force on Violent Crime. I read all of his books. I read all of the books on the background of the broken windows theory. I watched it when it was being used in North Carolina in small cities. When I put it in effect in New York, I was criticized by the New York Times and the left-wing silly people who live in an ivory tower and then don't understand why the city's falling apart. It's because of them. They criticized me for it was too big a city and wasting time on small crimes. Wasting time on small crimes. First of all, half the people we picked up were dangerous criminals. You know how many fugitives there are in New York City? Fugitives means people who were supposed to be in court and they're not. You use the broken windows theory, then you go after the small crimes. Half the people you pick up are big criminals. When we went after the squeegee people, more than half of them had warrants for violent crime.
Wow.
So this is there's a whole combination of things going on between Hochul and Adams. First of all, Adams doesn't have the courage to oppose her. which means he shouldn't be a mayor. He should go do something else for a
Oh
living.
my God, there's a New York Post story that says people close to Adams that he's secretly
isn't
hoping Lee
doesn't that tell you,
Zeldin
doesn't that tell you something
will
about his
win?
character?
Yeah, come on, say
And the
it.
Post seems to like that. What that tells to me, he's a sneaky little.
Wheel?
Come on, if you're for Hochul, come out. I endorse.
Well, he is
I endorse
campaigning with
Cuomo.
Hochul.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
campaigning
you
with Hochul.
endorsed the Democrat, Mario Cuomo.
He's campaigning with Hochul because I honestly thought, and I turned out to be wrong, but I honestly thought he'd be better for the city because we were running out of money. I wasn't sure Pataki would give me the money, and I didn't trust Al D'Amato being around him. So I went with George. Turned out to be a terrific governor, and we became friends. And I consider George one of the really remarkable people that served New York City. But at the time, I made it in the bet. But I wasn't going to do. My character wouldn't allow me to lie like that. That's being a lie. I appeal with Hochul, but I really want Zeldin, or he's just like a useless piece of nothing.
Well, we
That's what
have
you are.
an exciting show continuing on. We're going to have to take a short break. We already have a board full of callers. 1-800-848-9222. Please stay with us.
All right, we need some.
Oh, I got them all.
Oh, you got. Oh my! I forgot I had Maria with me.
He always forgets me. Poor Nona, as I always say. There's a gender, upcoming races, upcoming New York election, Georgia election. Oh, that might.
We're going to be on 8 o'clock every night.
Okay, I'll remember that. I'll
remember too. I'll fill it in. By the way, I love this new thing we got. Much better Wi-Fi.
Oh,
Last night I was using it.
wow.
You can't believe it.
Wow. Do you ever have a good friend and you want to tell them something like, you have something in your teeth or whatever? Because there's backlight and this is my best friend, I can see that he's got a couple hairs here. I just want to get rid of. Coming up.
Want to see my hairs? You have to know I have no vanity, so that's why I'm on radio. And Ted here screws it all up. I would have worn my pajamas.
Make sure you get out and vote.
Can't tell you.
Really vote.
I really
10
can't tell you
seconds.
how I've been dressed for shows, but I have to rush on.
10 seconds. 5 seconds.
Oh, I have to open.
Yep.
Watch how good I am. Yep, it's Rudy Giuliani, and I'm here with the incomparable Dr. Maria. And we really are uncovering the truth today on the lying upper echelon of the Democrat Party, which is made up of one liar after another, or one. If you engage in projection, psychological thing, can you be called a projector? Or I think we just call you a liar. It's easier. Right?
Yeah, it's amazing. I don't know how many people come up to me and say, geez, I heard Hillary Clinton say this, or I heard somebody say this, but this is what they're doing. There was a historian that they're playing a clip of this historian. I forget his name, but he was on MSNBC. And basically he was saying, if you vote for a Republican, you'll be censored. It could be death. And it's like, we're all thinking, my God, during the pandemic, it was Democrat mayors and governors who shut down states, who didn't allow free speech, and that is still going on. If you have a provider or a researcher who has information about the mRNA technology, it's not a vaccine or therapy, you get censored. They're trying to take away Peter McCullough's board certification.
And here's the reason why. That's the reason why it is enormously important to bring this out, and it's enormously important to listen to us and our colleagues at ABC and some of the other places that tell you the truth. You don't get this information elsewhere. I mean, just think of the number of people that were killed because they attacked hydroxychloroquine. I know people saved because we went around it.
I know a lot of people.
And I have all the studies. The studies are overwhelming that it does affect early stage COVID quite dramatically.
Yeah, it's good antiviral.
And they saved Marie Washington's life. How many people were deprived of that because Trump suggested it? I think they won't use stop, question, and frisk because I started it.
That's
and I explained yesterday.
Right for the citizens.
I explained yesterday there is a version of it that is approved by former Deputy Attorney General Holder and Attorney General Reno. Now, what better liberal credentials could you get than that? It's approved by them.
Yeah, good point.
Now, it's far different than what was held unconstitutional. But all they'd have to do is ask me, and I would tell them where they could find it in their file. They don't even have to talk to me. In fact, I'm going to do this.
They may have burned them all.
I'm going to send them a note and give them a couple of suggestions of where they could find it.
I just want to remind everybody that we are sponsored
disgraceful
by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, T2T.org. Look them up. I happen to be a board member on several boards. And I'm not a board member. I would love to be if Frank Stiller asked me to be. But Tunnel to Towers, the executives do not take payroll. So most of your money goes to helping veterans, first responders.
They help firefighters like the ones yesterday.
Oh my God, what a
carried out
thing.
A rescue by rope.
Oh,
now,
wow.
I don't know if you know firefighting, but that is, of course, the most dangerous way to go up a building.
This is
by
a time
rope.
I wish we were TV instead of radio, because this is crazy.
I wish I could show you the picture.
They were like all hanging on the outside of the building, these firefighters trying to rescue people.
I wish I could show you the picture, but it would be, you got to say to yourself, you can't do enough for these men and women. So we'd have at least one dead person, possibly more, if it wasn't for the courage. And let me have the name of the firefighter. It's right here in the article. His name is Arthur Podgorski. He's of ladder 16, and this took place in Manhattan at 529 East 52nd Street at 10:25 a.m. and it was yesterday. And Arthur...
It's crazy. They're just like hanging on these ropes.
Arthur is hanging on a rope. And as I said, this is the most dangerous way to do it. You do it only because you don't have the time to put up the other equipment. Otherwise, this person's going to burn to death.
I've never seen that, to tell you the truth. I've seen ladders, but I've never seen that.
So when this happened, when I was mayor, Mayor Giuliani would get off the phone with President Bush or President Clinton. I walked out on several meetings with presidents to do this. I'd get my car and I'd go there and I'd put my arms around him and thank him.
Oh.
And I'd hold a press conference so that the people of the city, I didn't hold a press conference for me, I held a press conference so the people of the city would see who serves them. Mayor Adams, if you stopped doing all the garbage you do and you started to grow up and work, one way you could reestablish the respect for the police, when they or the firefighters do something, have a press conference with them. Thank them. I did it all the time.
And it was sincere.
I will pretend.
And they felt that.
I will pretend I didn't do it, so you don't get accused of copying something I did. But if you copied what I did, you might be a successful mayor. After all, I was the most successful in the history of the city.
A smart leader will look at what's worked in the past and implement it. It's okay. It's okay. I did it all the time. I'd look at best practices. I actually developed a lot of best practices, but yeah, you got to do that. Well, let's take a caller from across our country, from California. Alex, good morning.
Alex, go ahead, a little louder. Hello,
yes.
Alex.
Yeah, go ahead, Alex. Okay.